Hello, I'm Jang, and this is the LEGO Ideas Insects set. It is inspired by a winning fan design over on the LEGO Ideas site. It comes with 1,111 pieces, and I paid $80 US for it. If you wanted to see the live build for it, well, that happened with the wonderful community over on Twitch. The set is presented as 3 distinct scenes, each with a main insect on it and some environment around it, and each of these has its own instruction manual as well, so you could have 3 different people working on the same set at the same time potentially. This one depicts a blue morpho butterfly in a relatively believable, feasible 1-to-1 life scale with some nice things around it. We'll get in there and look closer at it. And it's just on a perch of, I don't know exactly what this is supposed to represent. Looks like there's some foliage growing out of it. Therefore, I think it's supposed to be a twig or a branch of some sort, but it's shown just kind of stuck into the ground. So you've got a little bit of juxtaposition of canopy level, or up in the bushes and trees level stuff, and then ground level environment. The ground level part may be my favorite though, because this flower here and all the foliage around it just looks wonderful. I feel like this is kind of a highlight here, if not the bee being the highlight, because that has a wonderful design. Just perfect. I mean, this is very realistic in size. The print for the egg piece there, the large egg piece, is pretty darn perfect. I mean, that is beyond what I would ever expect from a Lego thing as far as representing reality. They've used clear stand parts, including this newer one here, to good effect. All that, in my opinion, is just really, really good. And I actually do like this stuff better than the main butterfly itself, because the butterfly is beautiful. And it does introduce this nice print here to good effect, which is really, really good. And I think it's a good Legoification of the actual pattern that these butterflies have around the fringes. But ultimately, most of this is, just some plates and tiles stacked up, not too thick. There's enough strength there that I'm not worried about this falling apart at all. Probably these blue bits back here, the inverted tiles, should have been just black, or if they were printed, that would have been great. But the undersides of wings of this animal are relatively plain, relatively monochrome, just have some circular details on them. But the proportions here are good, and this definitely makes a statement. You can also flap the wings, like you can bring them up a bit, something like that. It's not the greatest look, but at least you get some options. And there you can see just a little bit of depth, and the fact that it's kind of highlighting the fact that the 2 segments, the upper wing segments and the lower, are built separately and then joined together with some hinges at interesting angles, so it's not particularly boring. Now, I did some Google image searching to see what these things look like exactly in real life, and some of the images I found looked very much like this in terms of outline, but it was definitely the minority, where the butterfly either had just landed or was about to take off. They spread their wings out more. Most of the images that I found actually match this reference material in one of the instruction manuals. It's actually the 4th instruction manual, because they give you one that just talks about the designers and the parts, and that's it. No actual instructions in this one. It's kind of weird. But most of the images that I saw match this, which is definitely a bit of a different look, a different shape than the Lego one there. So it's a little bit odd that they picked something that is relatively rare for the look. I think that this is a good look, but maybe not the most accurate for that specific species. By the way, you can take each of these insects off and use them alone, but this one does not have any legs on it, so it's not particularly great to pose just by itself, standalone, unless you have a custom mount for it somewhere. The Chinese Mantis, on the other hand, definitely poses well on its own, and I will show you that, but first let's focus on it in the context of how it's presented in the set. Now, this one is not quite life-size. This is definitely larger than, from what I've seen, larger than the largest of this particular type of animal, but I'd say it's maybe about 50% larger than the average one. 25 to 30% larger than the biggest ones that you'll find, typically fully grown up and perfectly healthy and all. But I think that's okay. I personally don't need everything to be perfectly to scale because the build of this is fantastic. It looks great, has some great part usage involved in it. First, once again, let's look at the setting around it and what it's on. Interestingly, the first level of each base is identical between these, but then as soon as you start to add above that, they start to diverge a little bit, which is good. It's nice to have the commonality, but then also the differences. Got a couple of ladybird beetles down here, which is a common prey item for this for the mantis itself. I did not realize that this was pointed out by chat on Twitch. I did not realize that that's a new print. A slightly updated, slightly more serious print, less less toyish print, I guess, for a ladybird beetle. So that's nice that they, went to that level of making things even better. I like the angle here for this twig, although down at the base, or this branch down at the base doesn't look so great, but from most angles, I think it looks pretty good. And there's a nice transition from the thick lignified section of it up to the thinner area that has these really nice flowers. They're making good use of these Donkey Kong. I think they were first introduced with Donkey Kong, weren't they? Or if not first, most well known for the Donkey Kong sets. I'm going to call them Donkey Kong leaves. I think they're really coming into their own. It's great to get them in just a normal color, and this combination here of the crown piece in white with the light or cool yellow colored centers works out really well. Also using the lime green to represent the buds that have not opened up. That all feels very natural to me, very good. And then you got some broadleaves here with the dark green colored pieces. Maybe this doesn't match. Like this feels like an epiphyte, like an orchid leaf to me. But then these are not orchids up here, so maybe it doesn't all match. But ultimately, the whole thing does look good together. And then there's a lot of nice part usage on the mantis and a lot of articulation. So these are golden crowbars up here. This is a brand new print for the Technic ball end piece. And they go back and forth between some gold. The gold is actually integrated in well. I don't see it personally as a metallic color here. I think they used the right amount of it. And I think they definitely got away with using something that wouldn't normally be considered an appropriate color for a realistic depiction of a living thing. It works out more than well enough here to me. The revival of these Ninjago, what was it? The possession or possessed, possession era sword pieces. They're actually dual molded, but here they're just done as a single shot with just a single color in the lime green for the four legs, and then also with legs using the sand green color for the realistic revolver pieces here is really nice. And again, articulation for these legs is great because I was able to set this pose exactly where I wanted it to be. The insect is attached securely enough to its perch, but then I put the legs in different positions around, partly inspired by my own experience with just observing a praying mantis at my own house just a few days ago, and just seeing how they move their legs about and search for their footing and everything. But I mean, you can really put these exactly where you want to for the most part. And surprisingly, even though the legs are very, very thin, there is definitely enough friction in each joint appropriate to the size of the animal, and this will maintain a pose. You can move this up and down here. You can do some things with the neck joint that requires a little bit more hands-on work of kind of massaging the pieces around, but you can make the neck move around in some realistic positions. Not all of them. I wish that there was a little bit more ability to articulate the neck, but it would have really changed the proportions of the thing. Like being able to angle it straight up and straight down a little bit more would be nice. You can definitely go up by rotating that joint around, but you can't go any farther down. But these, I mean, this is ridiculous. It looks so alive. It's so right. Oh my gosh. It's uncanny. It's uncanny. It looks so good. And you can rotate these in and out as well, which is nice there. You can get an additional little bend in here for just a little bit of You know, just something extra. You can even adjust these ever so slightly, turn it side to side. And then with the legs, there's so many things you can do depending upon exactly how you rotate each of the segments. Because you can rotate here, you can rotate here, you can rotate here, you know, this can rotate. So all of that is really useful articulation. And ultimately, if you want a specific look, so if I want this more to be walking forward, it can be, you know, searching, looking forward, keep these up, one of them a little bit different. I do wish that the antennae could be separated out horizontally, side to side a little bit though. That is one thing that's missing, but I can have these kind of feeling forward. So you can just imagine it's just kind of doing that before it takes another step. This is excellent. This works as a standalone, just like this. But then it only adds to have the whole stand for it as well. You know, and interestingly, I think this is actually displayable by itself. Not something that I expected, but yeah, just leave that like that. Pose this off somewhere doing its own thing or nearby. It still works. It's good. It's good. Oh, my bad. I just realized that I accidentally left this piece from the stand on there when looking at it. It should be like that. Last up, this is a Hercules Beetle with its elytra open and its wings fully extended. So these are the actual wings of the insect, and these are just covers, like shields, outer covers, because on beetles, their actual wings are incredibly thin. It's fantastic. It's amazing that they're actually able to lift their body weight up with such thin little, it's just not even plastic wrap thickness of stuff. Nature is amazing. You can see there's a little bit of inspiration from the design of the insect in the base here as well. And this one's representing maybe some downed piece of wood that is decaying because it has some mushroom caps coming out of it. There's also a build it and you see it. Otherwise you'll never know. Easter egg inside of here. I won't spoil that for folks who are gonna get this, but it's just a small thing, but it's a nice thing. This beetle, surprisingly, is depicted in a fairly realistic size. It represents a very large one, but a feasible, believable, potentially real one as well. I just noticed I've got one little bucket handle piece here that was slightly off, but bucket handles are used to represent the feet here, such as they are. Not the most articulated things. It's a little bit more difficult to get them into the most believable positions, but overall, just the presentation of this is fantastically good. It's a very strong Legoification of a difficult set of shapes to put together. The head is even depicted separately on a ball joint, so this can be moved around. I learned from this just how these things are designed. I didn't realize that the horn is actually attached to the static portion of the carapace out there. So they're actually using their head, like holding things up. When they pick things up, they pick them up with their forehead and their rear neck strength, I guess you could say. Yeah, this is really nice. Now you can pose these, you can rotate them around this way and this way. You can kind of get these out of the way, but there's not all that much that you can do with them. However, you can remove the wings, and then you can't fold it all up the way that happens in real life, but you can remove the wings and then bring the elytra down. And this will be my first time doing it. Does this all smoothly land? It pretty much does. I think there's just one thing off slightly. Oh, there it is. There it is. Yup. So that's another display option for you. I think that's pretty cool too. The colors here are definitely too bright compared to the real thing, but it's not too bad. What is most off to me is the color of the eyeball there. Just stands out a little bit too much in my opinion, but I think that was a creative decision. All in all, the build of this was good. It's very believable, and this is another one that can also be removed and be posed just by itself if you want to. I think that's an okay pose. I forget if they are kind of head up or head down, but I think that's an okay pose. Maybe again the orientation of the little bits at the ends of the legs isn't perfect, but there's plenty of strength in these legs, and that does work with the wings on or off. Last and least, these are the leftover pieces, including just these two of the prints and one of the sand green colored revolver. Again, I paid $80 US for this 80. It is 80 euros, 70 pounds UK, and $100 Canadian, which is approximately 72 US dollars, for 1,111 pieces. Value-wise, I've tried breaking it down and looking at, like, how much would I expect this to sell for? How much would I expect this to sell for? How much would I expect this to sell for? It's fairly even between them. I think this one here probably has the least value overall. These two are pretty even between them. But when I tried to think of it from a $20, $20, $20 perspective, I couldn't really get there. I think that's asking for it to go too low, just from a realistic perspective in 2023. So, 60 I think is too low, too little to ask for this. Hey, if you can get it for 60, great. But being reasonable about it, I don't think I could see them selling for less than 70 MSRP. So they're definitely within the range, I think, on this one. And most importantly, the whole thing is good. The experience of building this, displaying it, evaluating all that, having it is just good through and through. And there's value to that, apart from just the total volume of stuff that's here. But yeah, this is all good, in my opinion. The biggest negative that I've heard from the community with respect to this set is that it does not include the exact things that were in the original fan submission. It does, though, just not in the exact same form. And I think that this is better. Personally, I just have to tell you how I feel honestly, like I always do. I feel like this is significantly better than the fan submission. The Mantis is just so posable and strong, and yet relatively easy to put together. Nothing's flimsy, nothing's tricky. I think that somebody who's building Lego for the first time could get through this without too much issue. The butterfly is excellent, also very strong without being too thick. I think this could have gone for a shape, like I mentioned, that was more like the real thing, but probably wouldn't look as good. It wouldn't look as recognizable to the average person who's not an entomologist. Though, again, this is still just a perfectly valid pose for the wings. It's just not the pose that you see most frequently when they're at rest. And I really felt like the bases might take too many pieces. The bases might have too much involved in them, but they really don't. They are appropriate, and they really, really add. If anything, I think the bases could have been a little bit less colorful. Maybe not this one over here, but these here could have been a little bit less colorful to just let the insects themselves stand out more. But then they're trying to make them feel more natural and fitting into a natural environment each. So I have to respect that too. All in all, I like the set. I like it, and I even think the price is respectable. So yeah, positive thumbs up from me. Very happy with this. Very impressed again with the work by Lego, and congratulations to the fan designer Hachiroku for getting a successful idea out there, and I hope that they will benefit from this and will continue doing their work as well as an independent designer. So all good, all good. Thank you very much for watching. Hope that you have enjoyed this, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.